Time now for Konrad's Car Clinic here on the In-Wheel Time Car Talk
Is
Show.
it that
Well,
time
we're
again?
talking about crankshafts. I'm going to talk about connecting rods. You know that last week we talked about pistons. So
Pesky little-
the connecting rod connects the piston to the crankshaft. And over time, how connecting rods have evolved. You know, originally connecting rods are pretty much a cast iron piece with the small eyelets, what attaches the piston, and that has to be able to rotate. And then the bottom, the large eyelet, which bolts together, that's what attaches the journal on the crankshaft. And relatively unchanged for quite a while. And then they went with aluminum connecting rods because they wanted to reduce the reciprocating weight, but they still had to hold on to the strength that was necessary. So the beam was lighter weight in the aluminum ones, but still basically an I-beam construction, which is kind of the strongest way to build a connecting rod. And then because as engines got smaller and you have to disconnect the connecting rod to get the piston out, they went with offset caps. So now the offset cap kind of rotates the attachment point about 45 degrees, and it's not straight on the bottom. It's a little bit offset to the side.
And what's the purpose of that?
Because the engines are smaller, so the working area is smaller.
Oh, I see.
To get your device to disassemble it, right?
Yep.
And then you've got the people with the super high RPM engines, and they go to needle bearing crankshafts. So with that, they'll put certain. That got offset. This is what's called a cracked connecting rod. They scribe the connecting rod and then break it, and then that real rough surface makes sure every time it bolts together in the exact same spot.
Gotcha.
And there's no deformation of attaching it. And then the aluminum connecting rods, they can't crack those, so what they do is they groove them to make sure that when you bolt it together, it's always at the exact same spot.
It's like a knurl.
That way the bearing surface is always in the correct position on it. And now the latest evolution is variable compression connecting rods. So what that does, and this is kind of a Nissan thing that they actually have in production right now, is they have engines with a variable compression. So with that variable compression, the stroke gets changed in the engine. So the piston doesn't go as far up into the combustion chamber. It's all about trying to develop some kind of fuel economy to the engine. Nissan does it this way, and then they also have, this is another version with an elbowed connecting rod trying to reduce that stroke, to reduce the load and stuff. And then, so this one's pretty complicated to use with this elbow on it. But again, it's all about trying to lower the load inside the engine. And then, of course, Harley-Davidson, as their Evo engine, they have one connecting rod that actually connects to two pistons, and it's fulcrumed in the middle, and one connecting rod rides within the I-beam of the other connecting rod. And again, that's just trying to get more and more compact in space. So connecting rods are ever evolving. And the technology, and Don, you remember from Top Fuel days, that connecting rod was a honking piece of metal.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was like a thigh bone.
Right. Connected to the crankshaft, connected to the piston. So
and they did not break very often, which was truly amazing considering the amount of force that
12,000 horsepower.
Yes.
Well, back then it wasn't 12. It was estimated to be less back then.
But still, it's still a lot of force,
yeah.
and that's got to be able to manage it. And when they break, generally it's more of a hydraulic issue. That liquid gets on top, so when the crankshaft is pushing it up, they'll bend, and that's typical.
Or you could have a catastrophic failure, and you don't want to be anywhere close to it then.
That's when it ventilates, lets the oil out.
Toyota